Chapter 8. Moles and Secrets. The university campus feels empty after the busy lunch break. A few late students run across the large world map mosaic on their way to their afternoon assignments. On a walkway, two students govern an experimental disposal robot as it autonomously picks up litter with little claws. Evren, Jepedia, and Kekalian watch its low form slowly rumble past the entrance to the robotics department.
They should let it run during lunch break.
Evren snorts.
This is no challenge.
She knows her limits in AI object detection, but she could have fixed up such a robot in an afternoon. Kekalian nods in agreement.
Well, to be fair, it's a beginner's assignment, right?
He tells Evren,
Students need to get a feel for how foundational AIs act in complex systems. Sometimes these things even nibble at my feet if I'm not careful.
He laughs.
Then wash them more often.
Jepedia shoots back, grinning at her friend.
Unbelievable.
Kalian moans, throwing his hands in the air. Yet, he smiles back at Jepedia as he asks,
Anyway, wanna get something to drink or eat?
I'd be delighted, Kekalian.
Jepedia says.
Your treat.
Sorry, I've got to scoot.
Evren replies, shrugging her shoulders apologetically. Jepedia nods at Evren and tells her,
I'll CM you as soon as there is news.
Yes, please do.
Evren says,
I can't wait to see what's on that cube.
with a short glance at her display, she waves goodbye and briskly strides toward the cafeteria to exit the campus. Kekalian has taught many students at the university, and like Jepedia, he too senses the depth of Evren's mental strength.
Strange Len. That one?
He observes as Evren walks away.
Yeah, almost as strange as you and me.
Jepedia replies. Evren leaves the university campus and enters the busy streets of Casseton. The sweltering heat of the afternoon sun reflects off the boardwalks as Evren makes her way down Foster Street. Her mind is still spinning from Pico's masterful manipulation of the electron beam.
This is really next-level stuff.
She evades a group of tourists from Manth who inspect the assortment of fruits in the sidewalk shelves of a grocery store. Instinctively, she looks away as some tourists raise their arm clips to take pictures of the fruits and their friends.
We could build chips on an atomic scale for AI like Pico.
She thinks excitedly.
Real nanobots with simple repair programs.
Evren's imagination runs wild at the possibilities.
And then there is the cube. This could be the motherlode.
She nods to herself.
If that is ATC material, I'll be a rich Len.
She already envisions buying her own cool shop, complete with 3D printer and tomograph equipment. Keeping in the cooler shadows of the buildings, she crosses a small marketplace filled with many different stands, booths and tents offering a myriad of different products. Strong spices fill the air, and vendors loudly praise their wares. This part of Casseton is called Little Mranths because more and more climate immigrants from the southern continent find their new home here. Their cultural presence is evidenced by their lively textured attire and the flowery, ornamental style of their cafes and shops. Evren weaves through the crowd and turns into an even smaller side street. Two dark-skinned crow in long black robes sit at a table outside a small cafe, silently watching her approach. These two are always here, watching the street and any passers-by. Evren nods to them as she enters the cafe. A lad to leave the heat behind. Evren gives her eyes some time to adjust to the dim light. Out of habit, she surveys the room. The windows of the cafe are covered with sunburnt ornamental fabric. A long bar runs along the left side. An elderly tourist triple sits around a low coffee table, listening quietly to the rhythmic beats from a Manth radio channel. The muggy smell of old minced tea, spoiled beer and herbal drugs sits deep in the comfortable cushions. Evren greets the AMA owner absent-mindedly, ambling across the room. She is still deep in thought about what happened today. On the back wall, drapes cover a corridor that connects the cafe to a storehouse in the back. As Evren enters the corridor, a loud alarm pierces her ears.
Shit, the signal detector.
She forgot to deactivate her arm clip. Evren looks behind her as the front door slams open. The two crow from outside burst into the cafe, guns drawn. At the same moment, she feels something hard and cold in the back of her neck.
Don't move. Hands in the air. Turn around. Slowly.
The familiar low voice lets Evren relax instantly.
Terran, thank the gods.
Everin holds her arms up, turning around slowly. The alarm stops and the two crow holster their weapons again. Leaving the cafe, they shake their heads at Everin's mistake. Meanwhile, the tourists sit in shock at the sudden interruption. The elderly crow keeps his Ame and Len wives in a protective embrace, while his Ame wife waves to the bartender, requesting the check.
I'm sorry. I didn't think about the arm clip alarm.
Everin apologizes, smiling at Taryn, who still points a hand taser at her.
Taryn?
Her smile freezes at the sincere expression on Taryn's face.
Next time I may fry you regardless.
Taryn growls, finally lowering her weapon.
These surveillance alarms are there for a reason. I don't need anyone snooping around back here.
Everin frowns at Taryn's tense, agitated behavior as she follows her through the corridor into a storehouse. The spacious two-story room is filled with sacks of spices, boxes and large cans on wall shelves. A small spiral stairway leads to a gallery on the second floor. Bundles of dried herbs hang from the windowed ceiling. Two chairs around an old wooden table complete the ensemble. No one would expect an eco-space here, right in the middle of Cassaton.
I'm sorry, okay? I've had some interesting developments today and completely forgot about the alarm.
Everin apologizes to Taryn.
It's okay, I guess.
Taryn says.
I'm a bit on the edge at the moment. Lots of things are happening.
She tells Everin, while she takes a beaten metallic box from a wall shelf. She places it on the table and sits down.
So, you're here for your payday?
Yep, what have you got for me?
Everin reaches for the chair and sits down across from Taryn.
500 in gold dust as usual?
Taryn asks.
I could give you 750 in diamond dust, but it's not so easy to sell. You'll have a waiting period before you can cash it.
Gold is okay.
Over the years, the Ecos developed an off-the-grid payment system based on valuable resources to evade government monitoring. Dedicated AIs are responsible for distributing Ecos sales in random patterns, and Everin did not mind the additional work to cash in her share. There were always several jewelry stores or dental labs to choose from. Taryn glances at Everin while she weighs gold dust into a small, transparent bag.
So, how did the cleanup go?
Not much to clean up.
Everin replies.
I scanned the whole area, but there was no signal other than the electronic bracelet.
Taryn's head shoots up as she instantly asks.
No arm clip?
Everin casually shrugs her shoulders and evades Taryn's gaze, looking at the small bag in Taryn's hand instead.
Yeah, the rest of one,
she says.
There was not much to salvage. It was cut in half, so I threw it into a garbage compactor. It's burned by now.
Everin reaches for the bag as Taryn closes the zipper, but Taryn holds back the bag, locking eyes with Everin.
You're sure about that?
She asks her.
Yes, of course I'm sure.
Everin keeps up the cold appearance of a card shark who has nothing to show, but still goes all in. Apparently, the arm clip was of higher value for the Ecos than she thought. Time for her next bluff. She leans forward aggressively, squinting her eyes.
What are you saying? Is this about me?
On which street was that compactor?
Taryn inquires unfazed, still holding the bag with gold dust. Still locking eyes with Everin.
The one off Porter Avenue. It's on a parking lot for a first aid station.
Everin replies without hesitation. Luckily, she passes this first aid station every day on her way to Jeppetia's shop, and she recalls the colorful graffiti on the compactor. She leans forward even more and holds out her hand across the table, while also keeping her gaze locked on Taryn.
It has real pretty graffiti on it.
She adds.
You can't miss it when you go to check it.
The two men stare at each other for a moment, each probing the other for possible weaknesses. Finally, Taryn flips the bag over to Everin.
I just need to make sure,
Taryn says, and puts the box back onto the shelf. With a sincere look on her face, she tells Everin,
we had some bad luck lately, and we need to be flawless to keep our asses out of trouble. And you need to be more careful. The arm clip alarm just then.
Taryn points toward the corridor and shakes her head at Everin.
That tells me that you are careless in public. We cannot work with assets that are careless, Everin.
Fine.
Everin drops the small bag in her satchel and gets up abruptly. Her rational thinking is about to succumb to her stubborn streak.
No one tells me what to do. I live my own life with my own rules.
Evren fumes inside as she heads for the corridor.
Evren, wait.
Taryn calls her back. Evren slows her strides and turns around, hands on her hips.
What?
She demands. Taryn smiles at her and folds her arms. Then she says with a low but pervading voice,
You know, when I was your age,
Oh, please.
Evren interrupts her immediately.
Not another you can change story. Young girl, blah blah. Find your way, blah blah. Be patient, blah blah.
Evren is even angrier than before.
Shall I continue? Or did I check all the boxes?
Evren clasps her arms in anger as she stares back at Taryn.
No, you didn't check a single box. And I'm not your Len mother.
Taryn shoots back.
I don't care if they catch you and lock you away for 30 plus. I don't care if your life is fucked up and your commitment issues keep you in the dark about what people really feel.
Taryn steps closer until they stand face to face. Evren is stunned by Taryn's correct assessment and at the same time angry to admit it.
But I do care about my people and their safety.
Taryn says determinedly.
And I do care about our planet and all of the generations that come after us.
She takes a step back and lets her hand drag down her face in frustration.
Look, you're an excellent asset, Evren. That's why we still work with you.
Evren lifts her head in pride, willing to listen a bit longer.
But we need to be sure that you won't drag us down with you, just because you are too stubborn to follow some simple rules of our business.
Taryn finishes with open hands, inviting Evren to agree.
Okay.
Evren sighs as she looks down to the floor. She knows Taryn is right. Looking back up, she weakly smiles at Taryn.
Yeah, you're right. I'll be more careful next time. I'll write a memo to myself.
She winks at Taryn, but she realizes that Taryn is very serious about this.
Sorry, didn't mean that.
Evren apologizes.
I see your point, and I'll do all I can to be more focused, okay?
Taryn observes her silently, then breaks out a smile.
Accepted.
Evren is relieved that her stubbornness did not rob her of a major source of income.
So, let me know if something comes up.
She says, giving Taryn a short hug. Taryn pats her back and replies quietly.
I will.
After sending Evren on her way, she stands in the middle of the storehouse and looks up at the gallery.
What do you think?
She calls out into the empty room. A voice answers her from above.
I think she is not coming clean with us. She's clearly hiding something.
A small crow slowly steps down the small stairs while talking to Taryn.
I have known Evren for a long time. She's complicated, but she's not the mole. It's not her thing.
Raylan turns the last spiral and walks toward Taryn.
Believe me, Evren in government is like fire and ice.
He recalls Evren's clashes with authority as far back as her school days. And even in their triple with Arya, Raylan had to pull some strings to get Evren off the police record. Raylan takes a chair and sits down.
We are missing something, but I don't know what,
he says.
I double-checked AI output, synchronization, and everything else. Even the system's AI didn't find anything.
Taryn lays her hand on Raylan's shoulder and bows down to kiss him.
I know.
She responds.
The setup was perfect. Yet, here we are.
She pauses, reaching for the other chair. Glancing at Raylan's worried face, she knows her logical conclusion would not sit well with Raylan.
We may have to shut down the whole Western Lasses section until we know what's going on.
Shut down?
Raylan is amazed by Taryn's suggestion.
We're the strongest section of all. And the most important. If we fold, others will lose their faith in us.
But if we end up in federal prison, they will lose their faith too.
Taryn answers.
We should discuss this with the council.
Her trust in the ECO's leadership is strong.
They helped other sections to survive.
But look at all the success we have here.
Raylan insists.
We hit the industry where it hurts.
In a low tone, he adds between clenched teeth.
And the one time we finally hit Winslow Industries, they almost got to us.
This is not about your father, Ray.
Taryn reminds him. Time and time again, she tells him his father's companies are but one of many targets.
I know.
Raylan nervously scratches his cheek and gets up from his seat, wandering around the storehouse. He gazes at the ceiling windows as if to find the answer in bundles of dried herbs. Taryn follows his gaze to the light up top, casually agreeing with Raylan's correct assessment.
He's right. We never hit Winslow Industries.
Taryn's logic demands to scrutinize this fact more closely. She recalls their previous attempts to target Winslow's industrial empire through the years.
We hijacked one of Winslow's freight trains once. It was empty. The refinery mission was aborted. The courier from Dushama never came. The harbor attack was foiled because the getaway car had an accident.
An eerie feeling creeps into Taryn's mind, and with it a whispering rumor spreads in her thoughts.
Maybe because of Raylan Winslow Jr.?
She hesitates to follow that thought. She looks at her friend and lover with wide-open eyes, unable to conceal her emotions.
I need to run an AI pattern search for all Winslow-related missions and correlate with Ray's activities.
She hates herself for thinking this, but the eco's irrefutable credo is, this is bigger than all of us. The individual is nothing, even if that individual happens to be a close friend or triple partner. Taryn's expression of disbelief worries Raylan, and he asks her,
What is it, baby?
Nothing.
Taryn softly replies,
I just thought we could spend some resources for an in-depth AI study to find out more.
Sounds good.
Raylan agrees as he paces back and forth like a caged tiger.
But what about surveillance upkeep? Our servers can't handle so much traffic at the same time. We'd need to outsource counter-surveillance AI.
He stops his restless roaming and looks at Taryn.
Everyone can do that.
He says,
She's excellent at it.
That could be an option.
Taryn answers warily, trying hard to keep a casual tone. Still, she reminds Raylan.
But we have to inform the council about our suspicion.
Light steps approach through the corridor, and the tinkling of tiny bells chimes as the door opens. A small Len enters the storehouse and opens her arms wide. Her wide trousers are adorned with shiny little bells that ring out with her every movement.
Ah, there are my favorite criminals.
She exclaims and skips toward them with childlike ease. An open smile nestles on her beautiful face, round eyes beam with innocence and curiosity. Her subtle makeup underlines her high cheeks and small nose. Curls of long blonde hair move in waves around her shoulders as she approaches them. Taryn gets up to greet her, still worried inside about her previous thoughts.
Hey, baby, what's up?
She kisses her lover on the cheek and opens her arms for Raylan to join their embrace. When Raylan first realized that his old love Taryn was attracted to two gendered triples with her own gender, his conservative upbringing clashed hard with reality. His Len and Ayama mothers infused him with an instinctive dislike for anything unnatural, be it music, arts, or relationships, and to this day, his crow father lashes out at these glass-petal kids when gender equality is under public discussion. Yet, this harsh rejection has fueled Raylan's interest in new forms of social life. To understand his own social coordinates in an always-changing world.
It's not the gender, it's the love you feel.
Taryn's words echo in Raylan's mind as he joins Taryn and Siren. They would never have their own children without an Amma, but Taryn also made clear to Raylan,
We're not living in caves anymore. Our survival hinges on climate, not procreation.
that thought also hit home in Raylan's mind, relieving his tensions between biological instinct, traditional belief, and actual way of life. All three silently enjoy their embrace for a moment, until Taryn breaks it up to face Siren.
So, what's the news on the street about our little mishap yesterday?
Siren hops on the table and lets her legs swing, her trouser bells jingling.
Well, according to the cop chatter, the ATC is mighty angry about their burnt-up copter.
She grins at Raylan.
Nice touch, Ray.
Taryn applauds playfully and sits down at the table next to Siren.
Did the cleanup teams get the coverall and facial features I dropped in the ditch?
Raylan asks, conscious of not leaving any trace that could lead to him.
No sweat.
Siren says confidently.
I had 2 teams on it.
She twirls her hair in thought and glances at Raylan.
Just saw Everin leave the cafe.
She adds,
Don't you think she should know, Ray? I mean, come on.
she pleads, spreading out her hands, palms up.
She was your triple partner for some time. You told us you loved her. Doesn't she deserve a little more honesty? Hells, she works for us.
No.
Raylan's voice is quiet, but determined. He looks at Siren with an adamant gaze.
I'll not get her involved any more than we have to.
he says.
You're right. I loved her, and she's still very close to me. That's why I cannot let her know.
Raylan's expression changes from resolute to weary as he muses all the times he lied to Everin about his dual life.
It would make things much easier on you.
Taryn suggests in a neutral voice. She tries her best to keep her suspicious thoughts under control, but as a Len, she cannot just bypass a logical assumption.
Ray, maybe the mole.
You know damn well that we can't talk to anyone about our line of work.
Raylan seeks comfort behind the most basic rule of their secretive organization. He himself only knows of Seren, Taryn, and a few selected others that work with the Ecos on Lasses. Only the Council has an approximate count of all Ecos members.
Can we please drop this and focus on what's at hand?
Raylan picks up his restless pacing, giving out orders.
Let's get the AI going. Seren, you need to give Everin supervised access to our secure server. I want this solved by tomorrow.
You're the boss, boss.
Seren jumps off the table and heads for the exit.
Siren, wait.
Taryn says, gazing at her own folded hands. She exhales, her emotions entangled in a mix of fear, anxiety, and concern for Raylan.
Let's contact the council first.
She tells them.
We're not alone in this. They need to know that we may be compromised.
Taryn looks up and faces her triple partners.
Believe me,
She continues.
they'll help us to coordinate, and even may assist in surveillance.
She needs Raylan to trust her now. Inside, she feels like leading an unsuspecting lamb to the slaughter block.
Are you okay, honey?
Seren asks.
You look pale.
As a fellow Len, Seren senses the insecure tone behind her rational thoughts. There is an uneasy air about her lover. She cannot explain. Taryn brushes off Seren's concerns.
It's nothing.
She says.
Just a little tired. It was a long day after a long night.
She gets up and addresses her friends.
A mole could listen in from here, so we must use the old intercontinental lines outside the city.
She hesitates briefly as she glances at Raylan.
There's no need to expose ourselves more than we need to. I'll report the issue and wait for instructions.
She methodically explains her plan. Before Raylan can interrupt, she turns to Seren.
We need a driver.
Uh-huh.
Seren replies in a neutral tone. She is still not convinced that her friend is really just a little tired.
I'll record the call, and we'll discuss what to do later.
Taryn suggests. Her plan sounds clear, rational, and sharp, like the blade of the executioner's axe.
Are you sure you want to take this one?
Raylan asks, worried about Taryn's well-being. He senses that the situation takes a heavy toll on her.
Yeah, it's okay.
Taryn responds.
I'll catch some sleep on the drive there and back. I'll be fine.
She smiles and straightens her posture to reassure him. Seren steps forward, drawing her friends in for a hug.
Well, let's have a tea first and cuddle on the cushions.
She beckons, cocking her head with a smile.
I can't.
Raylan sighs.
I have some stupid meeting at Winslow headquarters.
He frowns at the upcoming strategy meeting about Winslow Industries' cooperation with the ATC later that evening.
Ah, Crow, you're my hero.
Seren purrs and rests her head on Raylan's chest, tickling his nose with her curly hair.
I pity you.
She playfully teases him.
You must be so tense. Maybe we can loosen up your knots later tonight.
She looks up with innocent open eyes.
You little demon.
Raylan laughs at her and draws all of them toward the corridor. Seren's giggle and the ring of her little bells echo through the storehouse. That's a nice triple. But Taryn's suspicion may not bode well for them all.
Suspicion? Wait, what? What's going on?